the big issue this week that people should be up in arms about? Any brutal wars, civilians being buried in mass graves, maternity hospitals being bombed? No, according to some woke people, the most pressing concern in the world this week is comedians making jokes about transgender people, and these jokes must be banned. Last week, a comedian called Adam Riley performed in London. I've gigged with Adam before. He's a lovely guy, great comic. He'd be bigger than he is, but he doesn't have that relentless, psychopathic, dead-eyed thirst for fame that's required to be successful in the comedy scene in Britain. He's got a bit of material about how he's woke. Here it is.
I'm old, yeah, I've got to be honest, but I am very woke. You know, I believe that trans women are women, because otherwise I had sex with 2 men in Thailand.
It's a funny joke, and the room laughed, but someone in the audience didn't see it this way and stormed out. To break the tension, he referenced them departing and might have used the slur that rhymes with grannies. Now, let's get something straight, if the phrase "let's get something straight" isn't considered hate speech by now. I mean, let's leave things bendy if that's more acceptable. He shouldn't have used the slur that rhymes with grannies. It can be hurtful and demeaning to some people. But in Adam's defence, he was thinking on his feet. He thought that the people who walked out weren't actually trans, so he's using the term ironically, and the slur only became unacceptable relatively recently. The history of this slur has a lot of affectionate usage, so it's not immediately obvious that it actually is a hurtful slur. And nobody's notified when a word becomes unacceptable, by the way. You don't get a card through the door saying, you can't say this word anymore. You've got to work it out for yourself. It's a really bad system. I mean, it's really hard to know which slurs are bad when we never hear them being used in everyday life. I think if people want us to know which slurs are bad, then we have to encourage their use in everyday life so that we can be aware of them and then not say them. But the person who walked out was a trans activist and posted about it on social media. I am absolutely appalled right now. I'm literally shaking after attending City Comedy Club in Shoreditch. I just had to sit through a transphobic joke by one of the stand-up comics. I got up to leave and the comic said the word that rhymes with grannies are leaving. I shouted, "You should be ashamed of yourself," as I left the building. I am disgusted. I fully intend on seeing this through. Thankfully, I have my partner as a witness. This post got thousands of likes and supportive comments about the vile abuse, urging them to report it to the police and calling for the comedian to be banned. It was reported to the police and they actually turned up and interviewed people. I can't believe it. Someone broke into my car last year and stole $2,000 worth of camera gear, lenses, memory cards, some of it with pictures of my dick on it, doubling the value. And when I dialed 999, it was like I'd phoned Ryanair's customer service. They could not give a flying turd. Maybe I should have said that as they stole it, they'd misgendered me. Then the police would have scrambled a SWAT team to solve it. As well as the comments on the trans activist post, there are also hundreds of messages of abuse posted on the comedian Adam's wall or sent directly to him. Ironically, these included plenty of comments body shaming Adam. "The man is disgusting. He ugly as fuck. He looks like a potato wedge." I mean, this is a bit harsh, and isn't shaming someone for their physical appearance the basis of a lot of transphobia? Other comedians joined the pile-on. Harry Wright, a comedian who's apparently never said anything that's offended anyone, posted, "This is fucking disgusting. I've worked with Riley in the past. I won't again." Fortunately, a respected comedy industry booker, Mooch, and yeah, that is the same Mooch from the Three Speech podcast that I do with him, Darius Davies and Nico Yearwood. Well, Mooch was there to point out the hypocrisy by saying, also, don't work with people who instigate pile-ons. I mean, thank fuck there are still some people in this industry who stand by their principles instead of bowing to the mob. I also posted in support of Adam, pointing out that I identify as a woman and I found the joke hilarious. I am actually gender fluid and identify as a woman when it helps me to win arguments on the internet or get government grants. Unfortunately, a transphobic bigot replied to me saying, "No, you identify as a prick." This was very hurtful and transphobic to me, so I reported it to Instagram as misgendering, and Instagram removed it and gave the person a temporary ban. Other people urged the comedy club to ban Adam, vet performers, and introduce guidelines, because nothing says a fun night of comedy more than bans, vetting procedures, and guidelines. And the club saw the comments and thought, yes, these comments seem reasonable, we shall do as they ask. They posted, "Here at City Comedy Club, we do not tolerate discrimination. We vet all of the comedians and we did not expect the material used. If we knew, we would have never booked him. The comedian has been banned and we will be working with the authorities on this matter. We are taking this matter very seriously." Yeah, you don't say. "We are working with the authorities. This is insane! Comedy can only exist when good faith exists between the performer, the club, and the audience. Comedians have to be able to transgress and cross the line, especially at new material or open mic nights where acts are developing their material and their voice. If comedy clubs start banning comedians who offend someone or reporting them to the authorities, what do you think that's going to do to comedy? Is comedy going to get funnier? Hate speech, I use air quotes because it's often not hateful at all, is modern day witchcraft. When people talk about hate speech, they're basically saying that these words are so evil, so inherently laden with necromancy, that if you say them out loud, you'll summon the devil himself. I mean, I thought we'd left ideas of sorcery and curses in medieval times. And Adam's joke isn't transphobic or homophobic. He literally states that he believes trans women are women. His punchline doesn't invalidate that, and he doesn't say, oh, and by the way, we need to start rounding them up or something. But getting the comedy club to denounce and ban Adam and reporting him to the police wasn't enough. Instead of taking the fact that they're literally shaking as an opportunity to have a good wank, the trans activists started a campaign to ban jokes about trans people. End transphobia in comedy in 2022, trigger warning. When will trans people stop being the butt of comedy jokes? Comedians do not get to decide how trans people should feel about being publicly ridiculed. Is this just an indicator of the level of normalised transphobia that runs so deeply that we overlook the mocking of a marginalised and vulnerable group of people for the purpose of cis entertainment? Mocking trans people in any way, especially on a public platform, fuels a harmful narrative that it's okay to laugh at trans people, when in reality all it's doing is perpetuating a transphobic rhetoric. We also need to stop politicising the issue and recognise the damage it is causing the community, not to mention the next generation. Must I delve into the statistics of my experience as an educator? In case you don't know already, transphobic hate crime has risen by 80% in the UK in the last few years. 2021 was the deadliest year for trans people on record. 48% of trans youth have attempted suicide. 4 in 5 trans young people have self-harmed. Over 2/3 of people hide their identity at work. 6 in 10 transgender people avoid seeing a GP when they're unwell. The UK is already considered a hostile environment for transgender people. We cannot afford to fuel an already blazing fire, and so on and so on. I have an issue with these stats. As with a lot of stats around persecution of minority groups, I'm suspicious because they're always reported by organisations that have a vested interest in the problem being seen as worse than it actually is. The worse the problem is seen, the more funding they can ask for to fix the problem. Trans charity Mermaids has come under scrutiny for this and had £500,000 of lottery funding reviewed. That's the kind of money we're talking about here. And these claims are based on pretty spurious studies. The claim that 48% of trans youth have attempted suicide is based on a study of just 27 transgender youths, and the youths surveyed weren't randomly selected, they opted to respond, so trans people who've experienced issues will be more likely to want to respond and fill in the form. The Home Office, who are responsible for policing, say that the increase in hate crime is down to better recording and greater awareness. In previous years, transgender people might have felt wary about coming forward, but now that all police cars are rainbow coloured, they know that if they come forward it'll be taken seriously. I bet that burglary stats are going down at the same time because people know that if they report them, the police won't do anything. And there are more LGBTQ people than ever before. A recent study of Gen Z showed that 40% of them identify as LGBTQ. That's up from 4% in previous generations and 0% in medieval England. They obviously aren't though, they're just trying to look cool and fit into a society where cisgender straight people are sneered at and any minority group is revered. If there are 10 times as many LGBTQ people as there used to be, I mean it stands to reason that any issues affecting that group will go up as well. I'm not arguing that trans people aren't discriminated against, but is censoring comedy the answer? British culture is for all of us to make fun of each other. It's inclusive and breaks down the barriers between us. Banning jokes about trans people excludes them from this culture and is actually othering them. This is the state of comedy in 2022. This is an actual BBC comedy commissioner. My hot take is that jokes in general are overrated. Everyone should stop attempting to be funny. Learn empathy first. I'd rather live in a cautious, sensitive world than a funny one. I mean, they're not actually a BBC comedy commissioner, but they might as well be. And who's really the marginalised, oppressed person being subjected to hate and violence here? Adam is just one guy. He's had hundreds of social media posts hating on him, direct messages threatening him, people trying to dox him, getting him cancelled from comedy clubs. If you have the power to ban things, or even voice banning things, then you have the power. If you summon thousands of people to direct vitriolic hate and threats against someone, then you aren't the victim, you're the bully, you're the propagator of the violence. The only other people who imperiously decree that they cannot be made fun of are tyrants and dictators. You think anyone's cracking jokes about Putin in public in Russia? This trans activist is, like Putin, threatening people with their power to destroy their lives to get what they want. And I get that Adam shouldn't have used the trans slur that I can't repeat here, but it rhymes with grannies. But I think the right way to deal with it would be to speak to him and explain why that word's bad and is offensive now and shouldn't be used. Because like I say, he's a nice guy and he's not actually hateful, so he'll listen. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, because then I feel better because I've got more subscribers. And if you've got mates you think would enjoy watching this, then send it to them. And please support live comedy. And oh yeah, also you can support me if you like these videos by becoming a Patreon. There you get early access, you get Patreon only content. There's even a Patreon only podcast that is good fun. So yeah, you can, there's a link below and down there, that you can sign up to all that stuff. But yeah, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kearse. Good night. Cheers. Bye. Bye bye. It's not even night. I don't know why I'm saying good night. Bye.